Good evening, my friends. Tonight, I'm very happy and privileged to congratulate our community for finally opening the mikvah's doors.
"13 years ago, Rabbi Yaakov came to me and he said, Ruben, we gotta get together and we gotta build a mikvah. And I told him, at first I was shocked, I didn't know what to say. I said, what's a mikvah? What are you talking about?
This mikveh was not just a luxury that we wanted to add to our community. It was actually a great necessity. Baruch Hashem, we have a beautiful, vibrant, growing young community. And a mikveh, being a fundamental part of Jewish life and continuity, was something we could just not continue without.
I was amazed. I told him, Rabbi, this is something impossible to do. This is, it's a lot of money, it's a lot of time, and it was very difficult to begin a fundraising. So I had all these ideas of why not to do it, and Rabbi Yaakov came from the spiritual approach and told me why we have to do it.
One of the lovely couples of our community were having a hard time getting pregnant. For a while, her mikveh night fell on Friday night. We could only drive to the mikveh, but obviously not on Shabbat. She decided that this time she's not going to miss it. She set up an appointment and they drove before Shabbat. The time had come and it was dark and the mikveh attendant is not coming. They were waiting and waiting and waiting and she is not showing up. They didn't know what to do. It was Shabbat. They couldn't call. They couldn't go anywhere. They did not know where she lived. They didn't know what to do. She was sitting and crying and praying. Suddenly, at like 10:30, they saw two women coming. Apparently, there was another mikveh appointment, and with a different mikveh attendant and another lady. And they were so happy they made it. Now they have to walk home. It was dark, it was cold, and the road was full of snow. She told me how her feet hurt and it's such a long way and it was dangerous. They came back home around 2 a.m. It was 3 hours walk. And when stories like that happen a few times over and over again, we felt that we must have mikveh in our community. Their tears and pain we couldn't handle anymore. And we thought why they had to sacrifice. Sacrificing, it's coming from Russia. We both, me and my husband, grew up hearing stories about our grandmothers that broke the ice to go into the river, or took a train ride 3 days, or so many stories that they really sacrificed so much to go into the mikveh. But here in America, when it's a free country and no fear and so many mikvehs around, why women from our community need to suffer and sacrifice so much to go to the mikveh?
We got together and I remember we went down to the bank and we deposited $2,000 into the account and the fundraising began.
The ideas behind the mitzvah of mikvah and a mitzvah in general are of the same theme, which is of closeness and connection. The word mitzvah comes from the root of the word tzavta, which means to unite. When a couple follows the laws of family purity and a woman immerses in a mikvah, they connect to Hashem through that mitzvah. We can see that in many different locations throughout the Torah. Look at the very beginning of time. When Adam wants to return to God after sinning with the forbidden fruit, he immerses himself in a river.
Rabbi Yaakov and Racheli got together and they started every penny they had, every penny they can come up with, they invested literally dollar by dollar were putting into it. And not only them, but everybody in the community got together and started to put the money inside the mikvah. Literally, I'm talking about teenagers, anybody who can give $10, $5, $7, whatever it was. And slowly, it started to come together. We came to a point at some point that we were saying, you know what, we have a little bit of money, let's start to get an architect, see what happens. And the next step was we got an architect, and that was a whole challenge in its own. When we came to an architect who doesn't know what is a mikvah, it's one thing when you're building a house or you're building a building, everybody's familiar with the process. But it's a totally different story when you come from a religious aspect and telling them, hey, I want to build this mikvah, and these are the requirements and these are the guidelines. It's not a very simple process. I remember when we came first to the city to explain the project to them, what we're actually doing, they just literally started laughing at us. They're like, what are you talking about? You know, what is this for? Why can't you just go to a regular, a sports center and just use the pool there and stuff like that? The space is very limited, so you can't really build a huge mikvah. But at the same time, we had a minimum requirement. We wanted 3 rooms. We wanted to have a laundry room. We needed everything to make it functional, including the pool, the main mikvah hall. And the architect was able to put all this together and, get everything aligned and get it going for us. You know, at one point, I remember when the whole construction was beginning, it became so overwhelmingly hard. We literally didn't know what to do. I mean, there was problems coming from everywhere. There was just so much pressure going on. The city came, we didn't have a big enough gas pipe coming into the building. We had problems with the water valves, and that became a major issue. And all these problems, they're not very cheap problems, they're very expensive. I mean, to drag a 4-inch pipe from across the street could easily get over $100,000. Or bringing a gas line where this whole building was powered by electric. But the problem with electricity is if we start putting all electrical components and all these electrical aspects of heaters and boilers and air conditioners, over a long period of time, it becomes very expensive on a monthly basis. So we had to bring a gas pipe into here. And the miracles that I've seen, each one of these problems somehow just like literally started resolving, you could say, by themselves. But obviously HaKadosh Baruch Hu did not allow the Yetzer Hara to get in front of us because we're doing a holy job here. And I remember I would call Rabbi Yaakov constantly and tell him, Rabbi, I'm tired of this, there's constantly some pressure. The city's shutting us down for this and for that. And the rabbi would just smile at me and always tell me, just keep going forward and Hashem will help, Hashem will provide. And we know when somebody says that, it's just like you take it in a way where it's, it's something easy for you to say, but I have a problem now, how are we going to bring a gas pipe over here? Believe it or not, it came to a point, we have a restaurant across the street from us, which is Golden Corral. And one day I get a notice that Golden Corral all of a sudden wants to upgrade their kitchen. And when they were upgrading their kitchen, the city required them actually to upgrade their gas pipe as well. And when I heard that, I immediately seized that opportunity and I said, wow, if they're going to be upgrading their gas pipe, they're going to have to drag a bigger pipe anyway. They might as well bring it to us as well. And so I went over there, I talked to them, I talked to the contractor, and they had like literally no problem with it. They said, you know what, we're bringing it here anyway, all you guys need to do is bring your connection to it, and we'll go from there. So at that point I contacted Excel Energy and I told them what's going on, and Excel Energy actually came up to me and said, well, you know what, since Golden Corral is bringing in the gas line, we will just go ahead and tee off of it and drill underneath the concrete and bring it to your building. And I said, yeah, that's great, you know, and how much is that going to cost? And to my surprise, they said nothing. The amount of detail in the design process was incredible. Racheli's vision was to make sure that every woman felt very comfortable, very at ease, and just an all in all nice experience where they can come and actually relax and feel like they're very stress-free environment. I mean, every room was designed in its own shape. It has incredible amount of detail. It has, every room has its own different kind of style of tiles. It has its own amount of vanities. I mean, to the picture frames, to the flowers. It's just an amazing experience. We wanted to make sure that people come here from all aspects and all backgrounds. We're different because our mikvah is actually the only mikvah in Colorado that I know of that is kosher by all opinions. We wanted to emphasize that very importantly because at the end of the day, we're all Jews are family, whether you're Chabad or you're Sephardi or Litvish or Ashkenaz. I mean, it doesn't really matter. We're all one big family. We're all connected. And we wanted to make sure that it was kosher by all opinions and so that everybody is welcome here. And Racheli did an amazing job doing just that. She did an incredible job in putting the amount of detail and information and color schemes into the doors, to the moldings. And it became all in all a very nice ambient experience. At one point we hit a major gap where we didn't have enough funding to finish the mikvah. And I remember Rabbi David actually came and we were starting talking to him and I was stressful. Rabbi, I came to Rabbi David, I said, Rabbi, we need to get this thing done. You know, we don't have enough money right now. We're short almost close to $100,000, a little bit over actually. And all of a sudden, you know, we were discussing between me and the Rabbi and Abo and Nahami, and we were just sitting there together and trying to figure out what we're going to do. And all of a sudden, Rabbi David comes up with this idea. He said, you know, I heard about this foundation that help out with certain things like that. He said, you know what, I'm going to go talk to them tomorrow. Sure enough, Rabbi David went over there, talked to them. Next thing you know, he comes the next day with Hashem's help. He said, we found a guy that it's they're willing to give us whatever we have remaining left, which is at the time $112,000 to finish up the mikvah. And we were saying, oh, wow, you know, how did this all happen? And we were just all shocked, you know, how Hashem just made this process so easy, and through the messenger of a rabbi and our amazing donors, our dream finally became a reality.
I'm so happy with you today. Our dream and prayer came true. I hope you all will enjoy it. I want to thank each and every one of you. I enjoy studying and learning with you. It was such a pleasure.
And I would like to take this time to actually ask everybody here sitting around listening to this video now to please come and join us with this mitzvah. And the mitzvah of building a mikvah, it's so great, which it actually inspired me to do this project, was when Rabbi Yaakov told me that it's so important to build a mikvah that you can even sell the Sefer Torah, sell it to use that money to build a mikvah. Actually, you can even sell the synagogue, and you need to sell the synagogue if you have to, but you have to build a mikvah. The halakha teaches us that if a community has no mikvah, we are not allowed to move into that community. We have to make sure that a mikvah is there, even if there is no synagogue. So I would like to thank everybody here and ask you to join us and help us, support us, so that we can continue to sustain this mikvah. As you know, mikvahs, for the most part, they operate on a negative loss. So it takes a certain amount of money to operate a mikvah. I mean, this is not a business, and most mikvahs operate on a negative. They lose money on a monthly basis, and it takes a lot of money to maintain it. And we'd like to ask you for your support, to open your hearts, to open your hands, and be a part of us, be a part of this amazing mitzvah.
Tonight, I wanted to bring up another connection that our mikveh had caused, a connection between Jews around the world, united in one effort. Obviously, we have Mr. Levayov and Or Avner for actually giving us a home and a place to thrive. Mikveh USA and MB Glasman Foundation for the very generous contributions. Alexander Shaket, our favorite architect, for working tirelessly day and night, and sometimes very late at night, and making sure that our mikveh is beautiful, safe, and kosher. Kurt McQueen from Mallory Construction for having so much patience and doing such a nice job. Mr. President Ruben Batshayov and Vice President Abo Simonov for working tirelessly and making sure that everything is by the code, both of United States and Jewish law, and working with rabbis and a very pleasant communication between them and me and my wife here far in New York, thanks to technology and FaceTime, etc. Throughout the design and different phases of the mikveh, to make sure that everyone is satisfied and everything is done according to the code. But I want to focus on all the individuals, men, women, and yes, even children of our community that had given from their hard-earned money to the building of the mikveh. I remember students and young couples struggling with their own expenses, and even kids that back then used to be in our Hebrew school, proudly coming with their tzedakah boxes full of coins. Baruch Hashem, some of them recently got married and will be the beneficiaries of what they had sown. I would like to thank you all and encourage you to be the connecting links between the generations. Don't stop now. Keep up the good work, and may Hashem grant you bracha and atzlacha.